I guess the basic list of candidates is going to include Justin Wilcox from Cal, maybe Brian Harsin. Maybe this is where he goes back to land. What are some of the names that you all think that we should be paying attention to? And Chip Kelly, obviously, the one we just mentioned.
And Lane.
You really think so?
I do.
Ooh,
see, really? that makes sense to me. A lot more than it does a couple of the other jobs I've heard Lane mentioned for.
Have you guys found any news that Ole Miss was able to increase that buyout with that extension? Because I've looked, and there's a lot of salary numbers floating out there. He got a lot more salary. I want to know how much more buyout Lane Kiffin has now at Ole Miss. How much better can you do at Ole Miss than you did this year?
I think if you're smart, you bounce right now if you're Lane. You take advantage of the teams that were down. Again, LSU was down, Auburn was down, Texas A&M was 8-4 again. Like Bama was even gettable, and you couldn't get them. Like I think you saw that. Like you're pretty much tapped. I think you cash out that one more time if you can.
Also, you can never overlook the Lane troll factor, and like you know the Ole Miss job was partially intriguing because it meant he got to go against Alabama every single season. You go to Oregon, you get to go against USC. Yeah.
So, but what about in the Chip Kelly world? UCLA is not going to be as attractive as Oregon is to Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin would rather be at Ole Miss than UCLA.
I would think so.
What if he really wanted to be a troll?
If he really wants to do it, then you go to Westwood. But I think that in general, I view if Chip Kelly had to kick and scream for his $1 million meal table and then got roasted for it by the local columnists, I think that Oregon maybe, but I don't think that UCLA would be able to woo him out of Oxford, a place where I maintain if Lane wants to, he could stay for a long time, winning 8, 9, 10 games with the Rebels. Even in the expanded SEC, I think that's still a team that can get 8-4, 9-3 with some consistency.
And not if they go to a 9-game schedule, though.
True. But one thing we should also consider, too, is like in the expanded playoff world, 10 wins might get you into the playoff. Like if there was a 12-team playoff this year, Ole Miss is probably in it.
Okay, so I do want to ask you guys a question because I know I have my own thoughts on this, but how good of a job is Oregon? Because the last 2 coaches they've had there that have had any success bounced for jobs in Florida. And you might say that's a real indicator, like how hard it is to get players to Eugene. However, both those coaches had moms who were sick back in the state of Florida. Like Willie's mom, was older and had some health stuff going on. So does Mario's, and they're obviously from Florida. And I'm going to tie this in Lane Kiffin because Lane Kiffin's not from Florida, but he's got a lot of Florida connections. Obviously, his dad was the DC for the Bucks. It was very well known that he wanted the Florida job. They hired Napier, wouldn't touch him. I think it was pretty well floated out there that he would take the Miami job if they would offer it to him. Like, do you guys see Oregon as like a top 20 type job or a top 30 type job or even better than that? And do you factor in Lane's Florida ties if you go after him?
I think top 10 for sure. Or not
top 10 job?
Top 20. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I think I think you can get closer to the 15 than the 20. I like what you mentioned. Like if you look at Oregon's last few coaches, Chip Kelly left for an NFL job. Mark Helfrich got fired. Willie Taggart went back to Florida State. His mother was sick. He's from the area. Florida State was like a literal dream job.
Right.
Mario Cristobal goes back to Miami. His mother is sick. Miami's where he went to school. It's his alma mater. I don't think if I'm Oregon, I'm worried about the next coach leaving just because they have Florida ties. I think that Oregon is a place where you can compete for national titles. And there aren't a lot of those jobs around. Oregon's been to the college football playoff. USC hasn't. You know what I mean? So I think that with the financial backing that you have there with Nike, you can win national titles because, there's not, it might be harder to get guys to Oregon from California, but Chip Kelly didn't really have any problem pulling guys from California, Texas up to Eugene when things were rolling. And I don't think if you get things rolling there, you're going to have much of a problem because it is a big brand. It is in the Pac-12. And if it's competing for Pac-12 titles and it's in the playoff getting regularly, like I think Lane Kiffin would be able to recruit to Oregon pretty well.
I was going to make a joke about how new money Oregon was and that they stroked a check for the Willie Lyles recruiting service. Like they're just kind of rookie mistakes there when you first started getting the recruiting game.
But so much of this is about timing. Like Chip Kelly timed it perfectly. Wasn't that when USC was coming off the Pete Carroll like soon after that, if I'm right.
I think
weren't they going through a little downturn, and then he like catches it perfectly. Then they have the uniforms and they have the up-tempo system, things that nobody had, and he was really able to capitalize on that. Now everybody has both. So do you really have that significant edge at Oregon? I think it's a top 20 job. I don't know if it's.
I think it's a 10-win job. Since 2005, 4 different coaches have won 10 games there. Multiple coaches have shown they can win 10 games. So,
I also think it's one of the 2 best jobs in a Power 5 conference. Like if you could break it down that way, would you rather be at the number 8 job in the SEC or the number 2 job in the Pac-12?
All right, let's play a game. For sure, or it depends on situation. Which of these jobs would you take for sure over Oregon, like regardless of what your personal situation is, and which ones are kind of like more personal factor dependent? Bama's it for sure?
Yeah.
LSU's it for sure?
Yes.
Yep.
Georgia's it for sure?
Yes.
Yep.
Florida's it for sure?
No.
What?
Why? Because
the ability to get players?
The royal
history
family.
Of winning national titles? Pay?
The royalty. Yeah, it's like back to Tom's top 2 job in a Power 5 conference. It's like if you're
Also,
at Florida, you are a duke in the royal family. Like you ain't the king, you ain't the prince.
Yeah.
You know, you're down there in the pecking order. And I think that
but in the Pac-12, you got one king and everybody else is pawns.
But that king
there is no real second place if USC's right.
I think Oregon's a nice prince.
Yeah.
I mean, USC's rolling, Oregon gets stomped.
No, it doesn't. But
maybe my opinion's wrong on that. But I think that's a debate. How about that personal opinion?
Okay, that's right. It is.
I mean, when Alabama's rolling, Georgia gets stomped. When Alabama's rolling, LSU gets stomped. That doesn't stop LSU and Georgia from being great jobs. And I look at Florida, and it's in Florida, and there's a lot of talent. But you know who recruits Florida? Everybody. And you're also one of a number of Power 5 schools within your own state. It's a whole hell of a lot of competition for those players. So, hell, Oregon's recruited Florida. So it's not like anybody can't just go in there and get players if they really try hard.
Yeah, okay.
Anyways, let's keep going.
Let's keep going. Yeah. Don't.
All right. Ohio State for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Michigan for sure.
Yeah.
Penn State for sure, or personal preference?
Personal preference.
Wisconsin.
Don't you think that's like a level comp?
Penn
That's
State?
what I'm saying. Personal preference.
Yeah.
Sure. I think that's fair because you do have to fight Ohio State, just like Oregon has to fight USC. Wisconsin?
I'd rather have Oregon.
Miami?
Sure.
I'd rather have Oregon.
If Miami's spending money?
I'd rather have Oregon.
I'd rather have Miami if Miami's going to spend.
I think I'd rather have Miami.
Hey, listen, I know we've got it now, but we also have to see it to believe it. And we also have to see how it's going to go in terms of the execution here, because this is the experience that tons of Power 5 programs, no, excuse me, not tons, because not tons are able to generate this kind of money like this. But like Alabama knows what it's like when the boosters pool money and then the boosters pick the replacement.
Mm-hmm.
Like this, Miami just finally has the coordination, or at least enough big money donors that it can also do the same thing. But now that means they also are going to have some say, right? I mean, if you pick the coach, you might have some opinions on all kinds of things. And that's going to be on the next athletic director and the other power players to be able to play that out in execution. I think at Oregon, the machines, the setup.
Keep Phil happy.
All right, Washington.
Oregon. But I think it's close.
I'll say
I prefer Oregon. Yeah.
Washington pays its support staff better.
Would you rather live in Seattle? So that's the thing. I love Seattle. I like Eugene. I don't know. I like them both. I'd probably put them on the same level. Yeah.
USC. Obviously.
USC. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So good note from Coca here. Since 2000, Oregon has more 10-win seasons than USC does.
Yeah.
But I think that goes with the issues that they've had to deal with.
Yeah. Well, the hardest wins to get are 11 and 12 and 13. But they've had a couple of those too, to be fair. Let's see. Texas A&M slam dunks, Oklahoma slam dunk.
Texas. I think I'd rather have Oregon than Texas, and I can't. I can say, dude.
Okay.
What were we just talking about? What were we just talking about with Miami? You want to go to Texas? Like it's literally 50 people who think they're your boss.
Texas just announced that they are paying every offensive lineman on scholarship $50,000 a year,
and soon they're going to think they're my boss too.
That's pretty. Like that's a pretty nice advantage there in recruiting.
Yeah.
it's going
to be great.
Other schools are going to match.
Is that, I was going to say, is that $10,000 a win? Is that how they calculate that?
That's what I'm saying. It's like, that's the other thing too, because now like both of those jobs are in the SEC West. So now I'm back in a situation where I could be at the second best school in the Pac-12, or I could be somewhere between 5th and 8th in any given season in the SEC.
Clemson or Oregon.
If the money's the same, give me Oregon.
Clemson, because they funnel all their money to football. They don't give a damn about other sports at all.
Hey, my nephew plays hoops at Clemson. Watch it.
Okay, well,
well, how much is he getting paid?
Yeah.
Not as
Did they drop the bag?
Not as much as DJ, that's for sure.
Elsewhere, Florida State, probably personal preference. Recently, it's definitely Oregon, given the administrative stuff. Are we missing anybody here? Maybe Notre Dame. I'd rather have Notre Dame.
Rather have Notre Dame.
We've positioned them between 15 and 20.
Yeah.
You know, maybe when things are humming, you get up there close to 10, but you're not hitting 5.